Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Get $30 off your order of perfectly aged steaks, juicy burgers, and decadent desserts with our promo code VOLS, that is VOLS, Omaha Steaks. You had a quick article on A2ZSports.com, Zach, about Cedric Tillman and some comments that have been made about him in minicamp. We said it. After the season ended, he had this injury-riddled season with Tennessee, and it was just a real shame. It obviously gave Jalin Hyatt a time to shine, and that was incredible. But I think we all knew that Tillman has incredible skill, and he's finally getting to really show that. And you wrote some about what guys have seen in his time with the Browns. What was that you put up there, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, he just had his first rookie mini camp right after getting drafted. And I'm like you said, I thought that maybe he was the more sure thing out of between him and Jalin Hyatt. If I was an NFL team picking a receiver, they're in the second, third round where they went, third round. I would probably go Cedric Tillman over Hyatt. Maybe if I was the Chiefs, I would take Hyatt because I think he fit that offense really well, and I think he'll fit the Giants' offense well because there's some elements of the Chiefs' offense in that with Mike Kafka coming from KC being there in New York. But I really like Tillman. I think he's a great fit for the NFL, and so far it seems like the beat writers in Cleveland feel the same way. It's just mini camp. Everybody kind of gets hyped this time of year, but we've also seen plenty of instances where guys don't get hype. I mean, we've talked about the Titans a lot. You remember the Titans last season or last year at this time with Traylon Burks and all the stuff he went through in the offseason before he ever played a game for the Titans with various injuries and conditioning issues. It didn't get off to a good start for him, and he was a first-round pick. So it does happen sometimes. But Tillman's getting some good reviews so far from Cleveland. Mary Kay Cabot, longtime Browns beat writer, was did an interview after the Browns mini camp this past weekend. She was asked, which one of these rookies can make an impact for the Browns, not just in 2023, but long term. And she said, let me say him because he just so far. He's got the size, he's got the hands, he's got the ability to point the ball. He'll have some good competition because Donovan Peoples-Jones, another Browns receiver, has gotten really good. But I think Cedric Tillman is someone who can come in here and make some real noise. And a lot of the Browns beat writers have been on that same, page that he looks the part. He looks like an NFL wide receiver should out there. He's catching what's thrown his way. He can go up and make those contested catches. He can adjust to the poorly thrown balls from a quarterback that are going to happen from time to time and make something out of nothing. So it seems like he's on the right path so far. That would be so huge for Tennessee in recruiting if just him or Hyatt won. If both of them, then great. But if just one of them can go and have a solid NFL career and have some 1,000-yard receiving seasons, it'll really shut some of these narratives down. Like, no, this offense doesn't handicap you when you get to the NFL and put you behind everybody else. You're right there with everyone else. You got to learn the playbook, of course. But it's ultimately up to the player themselves to go out there and perform and to digest the information and to be prepared and to be out there and put forth the effort, put in the hard work, and go make an impact. And I think Hyatt and Tillman are both guys that'll do that. You saw Tillman last season. He knew what was on the line with his draft stock and potentially making his injury worse. And he did everything he could to get back on the field. They even asked him at the mini camp this past week if he ever considered shutting it down. And he's like, no, I wanted to come back and try to help my team win a championship. And they came up short, but he came back and he played against Kentucky. He played against South Carolina and Georgia and in those games and, did all he could to get back. And then same with Hyatt, the work he put in, he famously stayed late the week after the Alabama game, catching extra balls. I mean, he's had the game of his life against Alabama, Nick Saban. A game that everyone will remember. People that aren't even Tennessee fans. He didn't get a big head. He didn't think that he had arrived. He sat there and put the work in even after that. So I think both those guys have the work ethic to succeed in the NFL. So far, they're on the right track. Brian Dable seems happy with Hyatt in New York. We'll see how it turns out this fall, but it's certainly encouraging.
I just want to see, for Tillman specifically, just him get his real due, because it was a total shame that he missed a giant chunk of this season, and he never gave up on the season either. Mm-hmm. He's kept trying to come back, and I love him for that, and obviously everything that he did during his time at Tennessee, but he deserves to really shine because he has that ability. I think he's going to get that chance in the NFL, and and again, to your point there, what can you say about what it would mean for Tennessee to have not only wide receivers drafted relatively high? You already got that, and a few times over at this point. And that's amazing, and that speaks for itself in recruiting. But to maybe turn around and have a guy who's a star in the NFL, or at least really good at his position, would just be massive. Where he could come during the bye week and come to a Tennessee game and talk to recruits and be like, "This is where Josh Heupel sends you. You're gonna go. You're gonna play for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're gonna have a big career, and he's gonna do that for you." And I mean, obviously, that's so powerful. And yeah, I would say the easiest position on this entire football team to recruit to is probably wide receiver, almost no matter what you do at this point. But that would just add to it. So, but because it's probably such a desirable position for Tennessee at this point. I mean, what I really want to see is just Tillman get his. I want this guy to be rewarded with a good time in the NFL because I think he has the ability. The thing that scares me is that it's the Browns. Let's be completely honest here. It's a disaster organization. They are perpetually terrible because of the guy that owns the place. And you know,
Who, by the way, Jim Haslam, Browns owner that you're referencing, Cedric Tillman on draft night was asked about Jim Haslam and the Tennessee connection, and he pointed out that Haslam would come to practices quite often, and he saw him quite a bit at Tennessee, which it's not put out there a lot, it's not publicized a lot, but I kind of figured that might be the case. I wasn't really sure how often he's showing up to those practices and stuff, but it sounds like he was around quite a bit.
Lord knows he loves to meddle in things, if we know anything about that at the University of Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, the Browns are just a disaster organization. So hopefully he can shine through that because I know he has the ability to, and I really want that for him. But the final note for Tennessee football, and just wrapping up football for the night before we move on to the news that we were all kind of fearing for basketball coming to fruition. Going to talk a little bit of recruiting. One of these fun notes, this might be the thing that I love most in recruiting is when this happens. A big time, well, outside of obviously recruits committing to Tennessee, but big time recruit got a prediction to come to Tennessee. I always like to see if these actually come true. And this one would be massive for Tennessee. So Kamarion Franklin is a 4-star on On3. He is a 5-star at 247 and a 5-star at Rivals.com. And at On3, I don't know who the analyst was, but
predicted.
Yes,
it's Sam Spielgman.
Yeah, here it is. I couldn't find it. Sam Spielgman, national recruiting analyst at On3. He says that Kamarion Franklin will choose Tennessee. That is his prediction. And then the recruiting prediction machine for Franklin is at 77% to Tennessee. Now, that can certainly be wrong. It's not some kind of, soothsayer that's going to know the future. But these guys are connected that write about recruiting, especially the national guys. They talk to absolutely everybody. And a lot of the time, they'll know a recruit is committing before they ever commit. Obviously, we see this. A recruit commits, and these recruiting writers have a story already written. Well, they didn't write that story in 30 seconds. They knew.
Or a video. They have these videos, interviews.
The people that made that video knew where this kid was going to school. So, they have a pretty good insight there. Spring is in the air, and that can only mean one thing. Spring grilling. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to spring into something delicious with their semi-annual sale. It starts Wednesday, February 22nd, so make sure you mark your calendar and get 50% off site-wide. Grab all your favorites like perfectly aged tender steaks, ocean fresh seafood, juicy burgers, air-chilled chicken, and decadent desserts. Plus, when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code VOLS, that is VOLS, at checkout, you'll get an additional $30 off your order. It's the perfect way to get fired up and spring into something special. Don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code VOLS at checkout and take advantage of this deal. I've had Omaha Steaks plenty now. Comes right to your door. So convenient, so tasty. Can't recommend it enough. Go and get it. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, and you're going to want to hurry because 50% off site-wide is only happening for a limited time, so don't miss your chance to save. Visit omahasteaks.com. Use promo code VOLS at checkout and get an additional $30 off when you shop their semi-annual sale today. Again, it starts February 22nd. Mark those calendars and get your Omaha Steaks. Minimum order may be required. That's Omaha Steaks promo code VOLS. Obviously, this would be massive, massive, massive. Not only because he's a 5-star, but it's on the defensive line. And if you added this kid to the boat on top of the potential you already have there with some of the dudes that are on this defensive line already, some of the dudes that are in this recruiting class already, and then you add kind of a linchpin guy, you could have a pretty serious setup there for Rodney Garner, man. I mean, that defensive line could be the real deal sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, and the defensive line is where everything starts. I mean, that's where your pass coverage even starts, really, because if you're not getting pressure with your front four and you're having to bring extra guys, it weakens your pass defense. Nothing worse. I mean, it all kind of starts with the defensive line. We've said it a bunch. That's why Georgia had so much success defending Tennessee's offense, because they got pressure with their front four. I think Tennessee saw that. They recognized that was one of their problems with their secondaries. They were just asking their guys to cover, guys too long down the field. Not all the time. There are some bad plays, but that was a big part of it. And they've made that a priority this offseason, fixing that pass rush. They brought in Robert Ayers, former Tennessee defensive lineman and played in the NFL as a graduate assistant. And even Rodney Gardner pointed out that part of the reason he's there is to help with that pass rush, to help, improve in that area, which is great that they're, identifying that as a weakness and wanting to fix it. But the other part of fixing it is just getting 5-star guys, like going and getting the 5-star guys like Georgia gets that can go and win any of these one-on-one matchups against offensive linemen. You got to have guys that can beat some of the best right tackles and left tackles in the league. If you can get some of those guys, it can change everything for Tennessee. I mean, that's what can really make them a legitimate championship contender every single season. If the offense doesn't even have to average, 46, 47 points a game every single year if you have the defense that can go out there and stop guys. And, maybe you're winning games, 38 to 21 or whatever the case may be. You don't have to go out there and score 50, 60 points every single game. I mean, that's great if you can do that. But if you can get that defense to be a little more consistent, get that, drop that points given up per game, it's always going to be a little high because there's so many extra possessions for the opposing team. But if you can get it around 20, 22 points, somewhere in that area, 19 points, I mean, that's a game changer, really. And it starts with guys like Kamarion Franklin.
Elias says it here in the comments. I'm just imagining how good this program could be if they were a wall against the run. Seriously. All this team needs, or this program with Josh Heupel needs, is an elite defense. Now, that's an extremely...
It doesn't even have to be like elite.
Yeah, that's true.
Just average, slightly above average would have done the trick last year. You'd have
just solid, a solid defense that can get a decent amount of stops in every game, not get 63 points scored on it by a mediocre quarterback. It's that. Let's not have that. And you said it. It starts at that defensive line, and you're stacking up. If you can get Franklin, you're stacking up some guys now. You had David Hobbs last year on the edge, Caleb Herring, who will be up front, and then you add Kamarion,
a possible NFL guy, Caleb Herring.
Yes, and so add all that together with, in my opinion, one of the best defensive line coaches in America, probably the best or one of the best recruiters as a defensive line coach in college football, in Rodney Garner, and it's a really solid line that you're kind of setting up to have. And that's really, really exciting. It has to actually happen. But just the fact that this is happening with Josh Heupel, I don't want to rewrite history for myself at all here. I didn't think he'd be able to recruit like this. Because you saw what he did at UCF, and you just go, oh yeah, that the offense will come naturally. Of course, you'll be able to recruit the offense here. Everybody's going to get theirs. Everybody's going to have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. And that's going to be a regular thing at Tennessee with him. But on defense, I don't know who they're going to recruit. That was 100% my attitude when he first showed up. And the fact that they're getting legitimately elite level guys, and Franklin, it hasn't happened yet, but the fact that they're this deep in play with legitimately elite level guys even is impressive. So hopefully this ends up happening. They get this kid in the boat because you need it. And I it just keep impressing me. We've said it a ton. The recruiting overall, obviously, to consistently get to where like a Georgia is right now, you have to rise above the sort of mid-level recruit and consistently elite get to that elite level. But how do you do that? Well, you just keep getting better guys and better guys and better guys, stack those classes, and eventually you're going to get enough wins where those elite guys are just always going to want to come to Tennessee. So hopefully this can add to that. But anything else with football before we bounce on it, Zach?
Now, I remember those concerns about Hypo when he was hired. I think we all had those same concerns. I think it's a concern everybody has when a new coach is hired. I remember it with Butch Jones, not as much with Jeremy Pruitt because he had so much success at Alabama recruiting, which who hasn't that recruits at Alabama, but with Derek Dooley as well. The thing with Heupel is that, yeah, UCF, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't, just he's setting the recruiting trail on fire down there. I think part of being a good recruiter as a head coach is believing in where you're at. I mean, there's an excitement about Tennessee. If you go back, I watched a ton of Josh Heupel interviews at UCF but when he took the Tennessee job, just to kind of get a feel for who he was, because I wasn't, intimately familiar with him as a head coach. Even though he's in the SEC for a couple of years as an offensive coordinator, I just knew him as the guy that, that won a championship at Oklahoma and took over for Scott Frost. And like a lot of people, I just kind of gave that credit to Scott Frost and looked at his resume. And I think that's the reason people were kind of down on the hire at first. But he believes in Tennessee. He loves being at Tennessee. I mean, he's a completely different person almost than he was at UCF in his interactions with people. He's relaxed. He's got this confidence about him where he's just at ease wherever he's around. I mean, you can just feel it coming from him. So I think that's the reason the recruiting's been, better than maybe we expected, is because he believes in what he's selling. I mean, you have guys in and out. College football coaching staffs can be a revolving door at times. It certainly was when Pruitt was at Tennessee, and seen it at plenty of other programs. It's hard to make a passionate sell to a kid when you're just there for a year and you're not going to be there for that long. I mean, these guys do their jobs. That the outgoing staff with Pruitt that was left, they did their jobs. They kept recruiting and doing what they were supposed to do until they didn't have a job anymore. And you respect that, but it's not the same selling point that you're getting from those guys, or the same pitch that you're getting from those guys that you're getting from Heupel and his guys now. I mean, it really does feel like a destination for Heupel. Who knows what happens in the future, but for right now, he believes in the product here at Tennessee, and it's easy to sell it when you're passionate about it.
Absolutely. Well said. I mean, genuinely. Hey, let's leave it there as far as the recruiting goes. I think that's good. It was a great point. And just keep that train rolling. We all like where it's going and where it's already been. So just keep moving in the right direction. So